confirm it goes live on this IG.
I'm ready. I'm waiting.
We know we got you. We got you. Let me see. Okay, we're going live. All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. All right, good. We're on IG. We are live on IG. We are live on YouTube. It is Harder R Radio. I'm Preach here with Kiani. How you doing, Kiani?
I'm cool. I'm good. Happy to be here. Back again.
Always great to have you. And we have Zay. Zay, how you doing?
What's up? What's up?
How was
Looking
everybody?
forward to another evening of conversation.
How was your week? Let's start with Zay. How was your week, sir?
Uh, it's going. It's cold, man. It's cold. I don't
It,
understand it.
it turned cold like quick too, out of nowhere. It was just Weirdoville. I don't know.
Yeah.
One minute it was
hmm
like 83 degrees, and next minute it's like 52. So New York is nuts.
hmm
Kiani, how was your week?
It's going well so far. I'm looking forward to the weekend, long weekend. Looking forward to having off on Monday for the holiday. So,
What holidays on Monday?
Memorial Day.
Where? I didn't even know that. Oh shit!
You
Dang,
under a rock, sir.
dang, these kids are gonna be home. Damn, damn, god damn.
God
Oh,
damn, you gotta be a dad.
damn. I know, right? Oh, crap.
Wow.
Wow, the number one issue in our community. Anyway, so before we get started, you took a poll based off of a conversation we had last week, which was based on the conversation we had about P. Diddy, essentially asking the people what do they think is going to happen if he ends up being a free man, if he ends up being acquitted. What did the poll say, Kiani?
Correct. So I'm actually gonna just go ahead and bring it up because I haven't checked it in I would say about an hour. So
Okay,
it could be a bit different
okay,
as far as the poll, but it's the options that I put there was well, the question was uh, if Diddy is acquitted, do you think he could save his career? And the options were yes, he's plugged in,
hmm
nah, he too freaked out, Kanye is his only fan, and that man is going to jail. That man is going to prison.
okay.
All right. It was definitely neck and neck between the yeah, he's plugged in and not he too freaked out. So it's very much split in half, I'm gonna say, as far as the consensus of the folks that voted. So I don't know. I'm surprised to be honest with you.
I
I thought
thought,
there was
yeah.
going to be more people uh who felt that he wasn't going to be able to, you know, save his career. But there is plenty of folk that believe that he can make a comeback.
I'd be speaking for myself, and then we'll get to Zay. I would be utterly shocked. Like I said, like I mentioned last week, there is a way I can see him benefiting from it. That doesn't necessarily mean he ends up becoming famous or staying in the public eye. Like I said, if the man starts a podcast series or something like that based off of his case or his life or whatever, um, then I can see him having success with that. The only other way I could honestly see him transitioning into public life and being accepted is if we all know the play, and that's going into religion. If he becomes Pastor Diddy, I'm out. Like that's
Kanye
definitely
did it. Kanye did it.
Kanye did it. Mace did it. I mean, Mace wasn't. He wasn't involved with anything heinous, but that's usually the play where people they find God conveniently, and then they become a preacher or a pastor or whatever, and then they preach the word of the Lord, and we're supposed to forgive all their past transgressions, and we're just supposed to forget everything that he's done. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Zay, what do you think will happen if he ends up becoming free?
Um, he's gonna turn this into money. My. The difference for me is if he goes to jail. If he goes to jail, it's going to be very, very, very difficult. Now, I did mention last week that I don't think that people want to mess with him. I don't think
Hmm.
anybody in the industry is going to want to fuck with him,
Right.
right? But you did bring up a very valid point. If he goes to the internet, he has still plenty of people that he can call on that just because he is who he is will show up for him. But the major players, like the big dudes, are gonna disassociate themselves with him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
It's
It's
just it happens on on way lower levels. You know what I mean? In industry, you think it's not gonna happen at his level? Definitely.
It's bad for business just to be associated with him. I mean, like
Yeah.
like what you said in the poll, Kanye probably is the only person to have no problem standing in line with him and saying I support this man because I mean, we already know he's falling off the deep end, but yeah, it's bad for business. Like, why would you want to associate yourself, especially if you're a Beyonce, if you're a Jay Z, if you're a Oprah, whoever. You know what I mean? What do you think about the possibility of him being pardoned by Trump?
That would be a crazy move. That would be a crazy move. I don't think Trump would go as far as meddling to this. But if he did, I think
What?
that would be. You think he would? You think?
Yes.
I mean, I know that they
No, I
have
don't think
already
so.
asked. I'm sure that his
Nah,
lawyers and people on his team have asked for that pardon. I don't think that Trump will go and do that. That would be too controversial for him, even though he doesn't really care about the public opinion, and we know that. But I think that this would be really controversial, even for his supporters, right? Because I'm sure that his supporters are like, send that man to jail. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
don't.
to save him, to save him, I think some of his supporters would even question that. So I don't think he would meddle into
I
it.
wholeheartedly disagree. You want to know why? This man literally has pictures with Jeffrey Epstein, and they still voted for this guy. They still voted for him, and the fact that he'd be worried about controversy, he loves controversy. He's a yo. They're supposedly starting a reality show based on getting immigrants accepted into the U.S. Like, like the guy has no boundaries. He does like
Really?
it's alleged. It's alleged. To be fair, it's alleged. But when you hear a story like that, there's nothing about that story that you sit there and be like, "Wow, I can't believe he would do something like that." That's exactly something he would do. Zay, you don't think he would pardon him?
nah.
Why?
Because if he felt so strongly about him, he'd already been speaking up. Because remember, they know each other very well.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Him and Puffy know each other very well. He was at a lot of parties, right? I don't know if he was at the jump offs, but he was definitely at a bunch of Puffy parties. You know what I mean? Because I growing up, we saw him always. He was in the midst of the culture,
Of course.
in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? So I think if he was gonna pardon him, we would have already been hearing, oh, Sean would have never done that. You know what I mean? And he would already been speaking up about it. So
I don't know.
I think I think the people who are handling him are trying to keep him away if he's really thinking about it, right? Or if he wants to get involved, or really, really, really doing well by telling him, stay the fuck away, brother, because that's a slippery slope for you. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I
Mm.
think it's based off the results we see from the trial. Like, one thing, in my opinion, we're what, 2 weeks into this case, and nothing about this case screams racketeering or um, sex trafficking. This seems like willing escorts. You have a Cassie who she is a victim. She was definitely a victim of abuse, but she was also at times a willing participant in these. Um, I would not be surprised if he got off. And I think if you find out after the fact if he what he's guilty of in the public eye is beating a woman, being abusive, and being a freak, I don't think that's a lot of people. Like, you're already seeing that. People are saying, "What is he really guilty of? He's just a freak." He says it's a yeah. He beats women, but we've seen plenty of celebrities who beat women get a second chance. I just wouldn't be surprised by it. I would. This this world is so upside down. Nothing surprises me anymore at all.
Mm.
So,
I
what do you?
think
Go ahead, Kiani.
I, but for myself, I'm gonna interject here. Put my 2 cents. I mean, I do think that it is a dicey, where the I guess the prosecution stands. It's not nailed tight. It's not
Yeah,
airtight, right? It's not nailed down that he's for sure going down. They have all 100% evidence. I mean, of course, there is a lot of footage that we are not being shown. There's a lot of things that were confiscated in that home that we're not 100% aware of. So that's, something to be said. But what I will say in regards to the racketeering, I do think that there is some strong evidence because he wasn't just putting his hands on Cassie,
Mm-hmm.
right? He felt the need to put his hands on her friend,
Mm-hmm.
right? There have been multiple instances of, him telling his people, "Oh, I saw Suge Knight at the diner. Everybody strap up, we all leaving. That's it. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you're scared. You do what I say." There was a point where one of his assistants had said that during his interviewing process, the person that was speaking to him, I guess the chief of staff or whoever, said, "Oh, we all serve Diddy. He's the king of this kingdom." You know,
Yeah.
again, all of those things can be disputed, but the truth is, I'm going to bring our Kelly situation as well. Like, you cannot have gone this long doing these atrocities if you didn't have a team of people who were trying to cover it up, a team of people who
Complicit.
were yeah, exactly. And I think that that's the situation you're seeing here. Now, I think it's going to be difficult for them to prove, but I don't think that it's completely outlandish
Right.
that that would be the case here. I think it's just going to be really difficult for them to sway the jury to
D-
believing that.
W. What's the homie's name? He's watching the show at the moment.
That's Ill Bill. Just call him Ill Bill. That's
Il,
Ill Bill.
Il Bill,
Ill Bill.
Il Bill said he had a lot of drugs, which was some of the pictures we did see. And he had heavy duty drugs. I'm talking about ketamine. We're talking about coke.
Yeah.
We're talking about pills. Like, yes, he did have a lot of drugs in those pictures. He says he had a lot of drugs on a few different occasions, so they could maybe have that stick for
hmm
intent for
They
intent
there
to
is
distribute.
there was even a report because I'm not gonna lie, I keep a tab on my computer, so while I'm working
Hmm.
during the day, I'm getting the live updates of what's going on in the
You're that
case.
person.
Yeah, I am. I'm very much
Wow.
following, and there was a report that said that they even found eye drops, like just like regular eye drops that were filled with MDMA and
Oh,
ketamine as well. So, and I'm over here like this 50-year-old is putting ketamine in his eyeballs. Like, this is crazy. This is crazy.
no. So he wasn't. He probably was putting drops in drinks. That's what.
Oh, true.
Yeah, he's probably doing it that way.
That and that's I didn't even think about that because I do know some people who are wild enough to put drugs in very wild places that are not in their mouth.
Hey, that's a different
But
show for a different day.
but but that make a valid point. That could have been his a way for him to be discreet in drugging people, which again is problematic. And you can't. There's just I find it so difficult to wrap my head around that nobody was aware of this
Mm.
and nobody was complicit
Oh,
in
of
his team. Like, I
course,
just don't believe that.
of
I don't
course,
believe that.
of course. All right, so you just spoke on Ill Bill. He just said White Boy Bill. So shout out to White Boy Bill. Actually, it's a perfect segue to one of the conversations we wanted to have today. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with Ryan Clark and RG3 and Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. I'm not gonna get too far into it because it's a sports type of narrative, but there's a main premise I kind of want to get into. So, pretty much, Ryan Clark and RG3, both former NFL players. RG3 has a white wife, and Ryan Clark has a black wife. And Ryan Clark went so far as to basically talk about RG3 in a way, essentially saying you're not that type of black guy and you put white women on a pedestal and you aren't really down with what we truly are as black men. Referencing things he had said, I guess, in private because they used to work together at ESPN. And so I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this idea of interracial dating. Okay, now let's start here. Have either one of you, or both of you, we'll start with Kiani, have you dated outside your race?
Yeah, I have.
Okay,
I
so,
have.
so just to be clear for everybody in the audience, Kiani, you're Hispanic, Puerto Rican, correct?
I'm a mix of stuff, but sure, we can
Okay,
go with Puerto Rican.
okay, okay. Who would? Okay, so what was the culture, or what was the race of the person outside of your race?
Man, I've dated white folk
Okay,
in my past. I've dated black folk. I have dated somebody who was Palestinian.
Hmm.
I've dated somebody who was Indian. So yeah, I mean, I don't discriminate.
Okay.
So
And Zay, have you dated outside of your race?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, what races did you date?
Well,
Ew.
do we have time?
Bro, relax. Okay, okay. Okay, just say you've dated white women, you've dated black women, you've dated Indian women, Asian women. Like,
I see, but that's it. I mean, this is another thing that I want to talk about. But how is it that Hispanics, because we speak Spanish,
hmm
how is dating somebody who's black outside of our race?
it's not outside of your race, but it's a different culture. You do bring up a great point, but it is you are clashing two cultures, or sometimes you may not be. So, what the basic premise of what I'm asking is, and by the way, I've only dated black women. I've never dated anybody Indian, Asian, white.
why is that,
I'm
preach?
I'm trying to think. It's not about me. This show's not about me. Anyway, um, but one of
No,
the
the people want to know. The people want to
no,
know.
but one of the things that is interesting in a lot of people find it problematic, and I want to start with Kiani because you've dealt with a vast difference in dating. Um, is a lot of people don't want to. Um, I think the word is correct, or constantly teach somebody of the other race, like on a regular basis. Did you ever have to deal with any issues like that, where both cultures or races it became problematic in your relationship?
Um, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't necessarily say so. I think that there were certain dynamics that I realized were there because culturally they were raised in a certain way. Like, you know, in their home, their mother is very domesticated. She doesn't speak up, and for myself being very independent, very vocal, I realized that, I guess what they expected out of their wife
Mm-hmm.
was a different type of female or woman or whatever. And in those ways, I did see that there was a bit of disconnect, but it wasn't necessarily like a teaching moment where I have to teach them about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt that way when dating other men, where I felt like I had to teach them. Um, what I will say is that when I was dating the white guy that I had dated in college, I did feel like there was a disconnect in regards to like the struggle,
Okay,
like the
let me
struggle.
pause. Let me pause you right there because that's kind of insinuates what the issue was with the whole RG3 conversation. Because I guess it's I don't want to say question somebody, but how much can a white woman relate to the black struggle and be an ally? Or, I mean, I believe there is room. I think you can. I think you can be an ally and still date within the race and understand the struggle. But tell me a little bit more about the issues you had.
I want to be as sensitive as possible, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but I felt, and again, I can only speak from my own experience, right? I've been exposed to certain things. I had to deal with certain things in my childhood and into my young adult years, and it you build tough skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
I felt when I was dating this particular person that, I hate to put it this way, but he was soft. He was soft. Things were getting to him. He was too sensitive, and I was just like, yo, like, life be much more challenging than what you're dealing with right now. Like, you just got to roll with the punches. You got to just, like, you know, dust off,
Right.
what you need to, and get up and keep it moving. And I felt like he was a type of person who would sit in that. And I just felt like it became apparent for me that he had never really faced serious life challenges up until that point. And so minor things were big things for him. Versus what I would say for myself, I was like, oh, yeah, like,
Yeah, it's like yeah, whatever.
you don't know, you don't even know the beginning of the struggle or some serious trauma. But
Right.
again, I've always been the type of person you're never supposed to, like, go tit for tat about trauma.
Right.
Everybody has their own, and it affects people differently. And I believe in that, right? I'm a big advocate of mental health. However, I did realize that there was a significant difference on how I would deal with stress and challenges that were thrown at me versus him. And it wasn't just this particular person. I had talked to other white men as well, and I saw that kind of
It was a pattern.
it was a pattern.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
So, Zay, did you
Yeah,
so
but
go ahead, Zay? Did you have a similar situation?
no, I didn't have that situation at all.
Hmm.
But what I can say is, as far as the stuff that Kiani mentioned, this it's a disconnect on both sides, right? Because we go through certain things as people of color that they will never ever go through, and for us, right, our situations that we go through are we're gonna for us they're gonna be bigger, right? But for them, those situations are big. Like, who am I to say? eh, it's like us comparing, right? It's like us comparing. Like, they talk about, well, they're flipping out because some bullshit. They couldn't find some bullshit, and I'm flipping out because I'm still getting uh, followed by people inside the store. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Because they think I'm gonna fucking steal deodorant, type of bullshit.
Right.
And when you talk to individuals and it's like that whole situation, because we're so different, we're always gonna have that. This because there's no way for them to understand what we go through as people of color in this country
Well, I mean, it's not just a
and
people.
around the world, and around the world for that matter,
Well,
because it's not just we always talk about the United States, but it's
no,
not
well,
just
that's
here.
that's what I was gonna say because I've seen instances of it might. I think a black guy who was dating an Indian girl, who she knew her family wasn't gonna accept them, and it was problematic. Whether it was her introducing, I mean, I think we're a lot more acceptive of different cultures being brought into our culture. I don't think that we've had any major issues. My family specifically, I've had, Hispanic people be brought to into our family, white women brought to our family, like, and we didn't bat an eye. It was just like, all right, cool. Like, if you chill, you chill, we chill. Like, it's fine. But there are cultures that are, if they see a black face, they don't think it's suitable for their daughter or for their son. You know what I'm saying? I
And that goes beyond the white community,
Yeah, that's what I'm
right?
saying. That's why I said that. That's why I'm not saying I'm
There's
not. Yeah,
Indian communities, Asian communities who
don't fuck with us.
definitely won't fuck with that.
Right. And the reason why I'm also bringing this up is like I had a question on in terms of I wonder if there is a liberal black person who's in a relationship with a conservative MAGA white woman, because I would find that very difficult to navigate, in my opinion. If there's any evidence of that, there's a few people on our chat. If you have any examples of people in a relationship like that, where the black, and it could be vice versa, whether it's a black, I don't know if this exists at all. If it's a black woman who's liberal dating a MAGA white Republican male, like,
So I actually, way back in the day, I was what, maybe like 21. I had been working at Trader Joe's at the time, and I had met somebody who was going to get married, and she told me, and again, as far as her race, I want to say she was Hispanic, I believe.
mm-hmm.
I could be wrong on that, but I know that she was not Caucasian. Her husband, however, was Caucasian. And he was conservative. So she told me this. And I said, well, how can you marry somebody who has such differing political views from you? And she said, oh, it's just something we don't talk about. I said, but
Whoa,
that's going
that's
to be your
crazy.
husband.
Yeah,
That's going to be
fact.
your husband. Like, how could you not have a conversation about that? And how does that not, affect your dynamic? And she was like, no, because, and again, I'm not saying that her husband was a MAGA supporter, right? This is way before Trump even became president. So maybe his feelings have shifted and things like that. But at the time, he was very much a conservative, from what she told me, and she was definitely more on the liberal side. And the way they the way that they made it work is they just didn't talk about
Are
it.
they still together now?
Yes, and they have a child.
Yeah,
Yes, they do.
I saw what Will said, and it's crazy because but Will, see, so what Will said is like he doesn't consider himself a MAGA white Republican male. He just considers himself a Republican who's more libertarian, which is fine and that's fair. But he said I would date AOC, and it's funny he says that because I mean AOC is very attractive. I want to keep it there. I want to be respectful. But the idea that to say it's not going to come up where it's not like it's something we don't discuss, I find that very hard to understand that. Like, so Zay, you said you know a situation where
I know somebody who's getting divorced right now because the husband is a MAGA supporter,
okay,
and he's like heavy duty, like goes to rallies and the whole nine,
okay,
and
Mm-mm.
they're selling
Well,
the house and the whole nine.
praise the,
but hold on, wait a
the
minute,
woman
wait a
who's
minute.
leaving.
No. But here's the thing: how do you not know that before you get married, though?
Um,
Here's my thing. Like,
yeah, but yeah. See, but the time right now with him with Trump, it's kind of crazy because with him being able to get into office, there have been a lot of people, there have been a lot of friendships that have ended
mm-hmm.
due to
Hmm.
you know them supporting Trump, like heavy. Like I know people who
no, I
have unfriended people, the whole nine. It's like bad, bro.
no,
People who've
but the
known each other for
friendship, a
years.
friendship is different in comparison to a relationship. That whoever that person is that's getting divorced, she's deciding to get divorced. How long have they been married? Do you know?
Years.
Okay,
Yeah.
years. You all right? So, and I would imagine they were together for years before they got married. So you have to know.
No way,
There's
because we
no
have not.
how,
No
how
way. We have not. We this is he's an anomaly, brother.
based on
Come on
convers.
now. We have not
No.
seen nobody like him ever
What are you talking? I'm talking about her
in
husband. I'm
office.
talking about her. No, I'm
No, I'm
talking.
talking about I'm talking about our president.
Okay, what I'm
We
saying
He's
is
an anomaly. We have not seen anyone who's so outspoken and has this I don't give a fuck attitude. We have
okay.
never seen that.
You're missing the point, though. I'm saying, how do you not see that in the person you're about to marry and what side of the aisle he lies on? Because there's signs that there's no way she married him and he was this liberal male, and then automatically he saw Donald Trump and was like, oh, nah, I'm rocking with this guy. Like, we know who he is for quite some time. So how is she surprised after years of being married that, oh my God, he's going to rallies and this, that, and the
How many,
third?
brother? How many people do you know that you have friends? Not everybody you know is a Democrat.
No,
Everybody you
absolutely,
know.
absolutely not. No.
Okay, but that's my point. That is my point.
I
Yeah.
think the difference
Trump came
between being
around. You have
conservative and being
Republicans.
Republican
Hold
Yeah,
on.
you
and
have
being a MAGA
Republicans.
Hold on,
supporter.
hold on. One at a time. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go finish up. Finish up, Zay.
So you have Republicans and you have MAGA supporters. I mean, they're completely different now. There's like a complete line.
So
You got
some
Republicans that can't stand fucking MAGA supporters.
so Sean the engineer said if politics is a deal breaker, then you shouldn't marry that person. People are allowed to disagree. That's the difference. Like you don't automatically become a rally attending MAGA supporter. You see what I'm saying? Like I don't think you gradually go into that. You
Yeah, you
either
do. Yeah, you do. That's what we saw.
from that guy basically was what was he? What he was somewhat conservative. He was a libertarian, and then he went to extreme MAGA. Or
Yeah, I mean, it just like there's Muslims and the extremists who want to blow shit up.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta be careful when you word that.
well, but you know what I mean.
I
You
know
know what I'm
what you
saying.
mean.
You got. Listen, I love Muslims. I've had very, very cool relationships with a lot of Muslims.
Hmm.
But he's the extreme. Trump is the extreme. When Trump won, you had people walking around the street calling black people niggas in their face. We
Right.
had never seen, an individual that gave, people so much, I don't know, the balls to do the shit that they're doing today.
So, all right. So, Kiani, let me ask you this question: could you consider yourself? Can you find yourself dating somebody who doesn't align with you politically?
No, but that's just me. Because I hold a lot of passion for that. Like I'm very passionate about politics. I try to educate myself and I have very strong views. But there's plenty of people who are not into politics. And so that doesn't weigh as something that's very important to them personally and doesn't weigh important into somebody's relationship. So, kind of to Zay's point, being conservative and even siding with on the party and being Republican is much different than saying you're a MAGA
Yeah,
supporter.
that's a yes. I'm glad you made that. Yeah,
That's
that's
that
different.
is there is a big distinction, and there is plenty of people who are still Republicans who do not support
Absolutely.
Trump. So that's the thing. So when you think about previous to Trump, of course, there was always going to be issues that were disagreed on between the Democrats and the Republicans, right? Some of them, very serious. But at the same time, you could still sit across the aisle from them and have a conversation, maybe agree to disagree, or just be like, dead this conversation, we're not going there, whatever, and continue eating, continue drinking, and having a good time. Now,
It's different. Much different.
it's much different. Now you say you're a MAGA supporter. Now you're supporting things that are inherently affecting communities, tearing families apart. Really pigeonholing people into a really scary place. And that is not you can't agree to disagree with that. You can't move on and be like, you know what, cheers, fuck it, let's talk about something else. Like, no, it's dangerous stuff. It's
All right.
dangerous stuff.
So, a couple questions, Zay. So one question: could you date somebody who has different political views than you do? And two, um, was the husband surprised that she wanted to leave after she?
Yep. I don't know all those details.
Okay, okay, that's fair.
I don't know any of those details. Can I date somebody? Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
I don't
um,
think I could date. I don't think I could date somebody who's a MAGA support. I don't think that I could do that.
and I like what Kiani just said. There is a distinction between being a
Yeah,
conservative.
but
That's one thing.
that's the same
Libertarian,
thing that I said.
right? A libertarian or whatever. And then there's if you're going to the rallies, like that's crazy. First of all, you're spending time out your day to stand up just to watch this man talk for 30 minutes, and then you're like, all right, I got my fix. I'm out. Like I'm going back home. I mean, that's a little bit different. I want to talk because Will he put some. The reason Trump won was because he recognized the country has issues and he vowed to change them. Kamala thought things were cush and was basically saying, "Let's stay the course." And I don't want to make this a too political back and forth show because I have my opinions on that. And Will, you are more than right to share your opinions, and we appreciate that. He also says, and I don't mean that from the point of view like I'm a Trump fan, and we know I know the type of person like Will is. I can already tell like there is a faction of this country. I also don't think Will is going to rallies. I mean, I could be wrong. If you're out there wearing the red hat and going to rallies, then go rock out. But there is a faction of people who are just kind of sick of both systems or just the whole system in general, and they feel like somebody like him, like Trump, just puts a monkey wrench in the whole thing, and hopefully by doing that, it changes the way the status quo has been for decades. And I understand it. I get that point of view. My only gripe with it's not my only gripe. My gripe with Trump is that I just know if he was not named Donald Trump and he was a person of color, he would not get away with the things that Donald Trump gets away with. I think that's a fact. If his supporters might say, "Oh no, that's not true." If a black man ran for office, had what 3 marriages, how many baby moms, said the things that he says, uh, he wouldn't make it to the primaries. Like, let's just be honest. But this guy who markets himself very well, you got to give him that, has put himself at a certain pedestal that has gotten him the presidency, and you can't deny that. So, but like I said, the couple that you mentioned, it's just surprising to me that I just wonder like. Was there any conversation? Was there any like, okay, can you not go to the rallies? Did he tell her like, yo, I'm going to the rally. I'll see you later for dinner. Like, was this something where it was like built up, or he was like, oh, this is who I'm supporting, this is who I'm rocking with, and This is what I'm doing. Or he might just accept the divorce as well. I just kind of find it sad. Like, I feel like you should kind of know where your mate, based off conversations at dinner or when you're hanging out or when you're at the crib, you kind of, you kind of know what side of the aisle they sit on. I'm sorry. Like, have either of y'all dated and not had a conversation and be like, I don't know if this person is conservative or not. No, I kind of.
I've dated people who didn't have an opinion on politics. And so I think that if you date somebody who's just like politics is not my thing, you really don't know where they stand. And I think that's probably the most dangerous place to be is if you don't have a stance on it. That means that could be swayed.
Well, I don't even think it's just having an opinion on politics. But okay, so let's just take the having. Oh, what party do you align with? Let's take that out. I'm just talking about specific issues. All right, does this person you're with, is he pro-choice or is he pro-life? Does he believe in the First Amendment? Does he believe in the Second Amendment? Is he pro guns? Is he more for gun control? Like, just based off of conversations like that, you can kind of tell where a person leans. Am I wrong in thinking that?
That's fair.
I mean, that's what
I
I'm
don't know
saying.
because I don't know where I
Ooh.
lean. I don't know where I lean. Like,
What do you mean you don't know where you lean?
Kiani just said that if like I don't, because I think that politics is just bullshit. I think politics is two two crooked parties or however many parties who are out to just try and fucking siphon as much money out of the country as they can. Like, that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't believe the Democrats because they're always swaying people one way and scaring them into voting for them, right? Because they're gonna take away this and they're gonna take away that. And
Mm-hmm.
the Republicans just don't give a fuck. They be like, nah, if you ain't rich, you
You
shouldn't
ain't,
get
you
shit.
ain't, you ain't rocking with us, word.
You know what I mean? So like, who am I supposed to side with? Who am I supposed to side with?
But there are once again, this goes back to specific issues. Once again, like, are you pro-choice? Are you pro-life? Where do you stand on that?
No, I'm pro-choice. I'm definitely pro-choice.
Okay, are you more for gun control, or are you more for, I want to buy as many guns as possible and rock out with wherever I want to do? I mean,
See,
in
I'm
in
kind of, but
fairness,
yeah, but I'm not.
you can be an independent as well. You can consider yourself an independent as well. I mean, that's also,
I
you
mean, when it
know,
comes to gun control, I'm kind of like in the middle with
Mhm.
gun control because there's a part of me that wants to say, take guns away from everybody. But the reality is that you're not going to take away everybody's gun. So if you're going to take away everybody's rights, right, and then you're still going to have like this huge population of people that got guns, buried and in hidden and stuff like that. I want to have guns too, just in case. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
right?
Like, listen,
You
I
know,
don't I don't know if I don't know if we're gonna have a zombie apocalypse. I need a fucking gun.
Kiani,
That's a fair point.
is there something in? Okay, so Kiani, let me ask you this question: is there a conservative issue that you actually align with?
Is there a conservative issue that I actually
Because for instance,
align with?
I consider myself a socially liberal but fiscal conservative person. So I believe, like, if I have $5 in my pocket, I can't spend 10. I'm not buying something that's $10, right? I consider myself a fiscal conservative, although I'm pro gay marriage. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I'm pro choice, so on and so forth. Is there something that you might agree with on the conservative side of the aisle?
I think the conversation of gun control, I think, is one of them, right?
Kiani with the
I'm
blicky.
not. Listen, I don't own at the moment, but I have looked into getting my license. I have looked into having a gun in the home, and I think it's important that everybody's strapped up. Am I a fan of, these folks that got 10, 15, different guns? I know hunting is a sport and everything like that, yada yada. But do we really need semi-automatic weapons? Like, and then at the same time, my main issue with gun control is the fact that they are not screening people as well as they should be for mental health and X, Y, and Z. It's very easy for somebody, and especially in certain states, to get a license, get a gun. I think in some places you don't even need a license, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, here
they have
where I'm
different
at, you don't.
rules.
Where I'm at, I swear to God, where I'm at, you do not need a license. Oh, you need a driver's license, and that's it. You can just go.
In Delaware?
Yeah, you can just go
Oh,
to
I
a gun
didn't even
shop.
know y'all got down like that.
First of all, you live in Philly and you ain't strapped. There's a huge problem. Everybody in Philly strapped up. You're bugging.
Yeah.
You're wilding.
Yeah.
You
I've
better
never
stop
been a
playing.
big fan of. I've never been a fan of guns because I just don't like the idea of holding that much power of being able to potentially take a life. I think that if I was ever put in a situation where I had to use lethal force, it would affect me mentally and emotionally. That I don't know if I would be the same person again. So I've always really stayed away from that. Right. But I do think that, now that I've purchased my own home, hopefully in the future I will start my own family, and I want to make sure that I protect what's mine, no matter what.
Yo, just
So
just imagine Kiani with the blicky with the baby on her back, like
not for
She'll
real.
throw the baby.
Listen.
She'll throw the baby to the back and pull her out the blicky. Ah!
That's crazy. First of all, videotape that. I definitely want to see that. That would be fire.
Well, let's hope I'm never put in that situation.
Oh, you're
But
in Philly. You're in Philly. It'll happen. Sorry. So, it's gonna happen. I'm sorry. It's inevitable. But no, I'm not wishing that on anybody. Yeah, I do agree with you too. Like the whole idea of having assault rifles. I don't think we should. Somebody who watches a movie can just upright and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to a gun store and get that." Like, I think there's certain guns that should be reserved for the military. You know what I'm saying? I'm not shooting a deer with an AK-47. Like, for what? The meats and pieces after a few shots. Like, what are we talking about? So, I mean,
mm,
I think there's always a middle ground. I just feel like with the couple you mentioned earlier, I don't know if that's extreme. I can understand it. But yeah, I would love to find out. I'm gonna put this out there. If there's a couple out there where one party is not just a MAGA conservative, but let's say a white or black MAGA conservative, and they're dealing with somebody who's liberal of the other race, I just wonder how the dynamic of that relationship is. Like, it's just, that to me, that's a great reality show, and we should produce it, 100%. 100%, because it's gonna be natural fights. I feel like it's everything attached is gonna be it's gonna be a natural fight.
You want to read some of the comments?
Yeah, you can read.
Uh, so Ill Bill over here says, um, a sign ain't gonna stop someone from walking into a building. Yes, we need that semi. Vermont and Alaska
mm,
too.
We need that semi.
Yeah.
yeah. He makes a good point though. His last point where he says, "Why? So you can't get plucked off from 200 yards, but you only able to fight back accurately within 50 to 75 yards." So because we think about what is that? It's the Second Amendment, right?
Right, yeah.
I'm not too good on my
Mm.
amendments here,
Amendments,
but
yes, right. It's okay.
I'm not gonna lie. Which one is what number? But the whole point is for you to bear arms in case of tyranny,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's the whole purpose. So if the military is the only one with semi-automatic guns, we are already at a disadvantage. That's why it's like, no, the average person should be able to have access to
Kiani,
that in case we need to defend ourselves. I'm not saying it's realistic. I'm just saying.
Kiani. First of all, I can have a whole infantry in my basement. The U.S. military will wipe me from the earth, no matter what. They got drones, they got tanks, they got all the what. There's, I love that argument. I'm not saying you're wrong because there is truth to that. But this idea that you have these people in the woods in a bunker and they're building this whole infantry of weapons to protect themselves from the U.S. government. All the U.S. government has to send is one drone, boop, and you're gone. Like we're done, party done. So it's
Yeah.
that I find that excuse. It's I don't believe in that. Like we're not winning against the U.S. military. There's no way, no how. I'm sorry. Like, and if you think having a whole infantry of weapons is going to help you do that, good luck. It ain't about the American military. Trump about to build a golden. I mean, yeah, we about to become Israel pretty soon. I mean,
Mm.
There's a listen, like I said, Will, I did not want this to become a political conversation, although we are talking about political issues based on like relationships. I want to kind of keep it there. We can have that conversation maybe next show. I appreciate the input. Yeah, it's spooky hours, man. It's spooky out here.
Yeah.
It is spooky. So another topic we wanted to talk about before we get out of here. You wanted to show you say you had a friend who's having issues with kids. Can you mind delving more into that?
Well, I mean, the the main issue is or the main the question is right is what has happened so drastic between my generation, your generation, and I mean you and Kiani are closer to each other, but you still an old man anyway. My
Why
generation,
am I catching
your
strays?
generation, and Kiani's generation, and now the generation after Kiani is batshit crazy. Like
You mind elaborating, sir? I mean, is the zombie apocalypse tomorrow? Like,
I don't know. It's just the thought of entitlement, the thought of um just them knowing it all and not knowing anything. Like I don't know. Yes, we went against the grain also, but we were able to come back and say, you know what, some of the stuff that we learned and have learned even before we hit adulthood, we started understanding how things can or would affect us, right? Whereas this younger generation right now is just balls to the wall. They don't give a fuck.
Zay, I mean, let's. There's some truth to it, but at the end of the day, like I'm pretty sure that your elders, when you were a kid, were saying the same thing about you. Like it's all the same package, just with a different gift wrap. Like
Nah,
it's
I
all.
don't think that's
Yes,
true,
it is.
brother.
I mean,
I don't think that's true because we were even as wild as we were a lot more sheltered. And I think one of the things that has happened, right, is obviously social media and access to the
well, just
internet and getting all
the
this
internet in general. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
being
Mm-hmm.
bombarded by all this different crap. Like the internet is a blessing and a curse, especially for the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to be
Mm-hmm.
really careful with your kids and what they're doing on the internet. Like really careful.
Yeah, but once again, I just think the issues that you bring up are, I think it's the same issues. It's just a different angle. I mean, a lot of people say now, like, yo, kids are lazy. But I remember I was being called lazy when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure
Nah, we
you were
went out
being
now.
you were
Nope,
being called lazy.
nope,
There's different
nope.
dynamics to it. All right,
See, but
well,
that's
God,
no, no, because we played. We went outside. We ran in the park. We rode our bikes. We did all that shit, brother. We played handball, stoop ball, catch a kiss. All that crazy.
nigga,
These kids don't do none of that shit.
what old game was you playing called Catch a Kiss? That
Catch a
sounds.
kiss.
Yo, catch a kiss,
I ain't
brother. Catch.
never heard that before. You heard of that,
Kiani
Kiani?
That
played
sounds like
it.
you're not supposed to. Be- what?
Kiani played it.
What is the
Oh,
premise of
was
the
that
game?
the cooties game? Was that the cooties game? I think that was like, oh, he got cooties, but he trying to give you the cooties, which means he's trying to give you a kiss.
Kiss.
Um,
Yo, yeah.
wow.
Yeah, but Kiani, Kiani played other games. You know what I'm saying?
We cannot do this live on air.
Yeah, what is happening right now? I feel like I have to leave
You
for a minute.
embarrass me like this, I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna leave.
But hold on,
Let's relax.
so Kiani, like, but you being the youngest one among us, like, do you feel like there's a difference between, okay, for instance, like, between the age that Zay is and you, do you feel like there's a difference in your childhood in comparison to him or what he's complaining about? Because to me, he just sounds like the old man on the lawn.
I think that my generation, I'm like right at the cusp of what you would consider a millennial and what a Gen
Z.
Z.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I remember like when I first got my first cell phone, like there was no internet. I didn't have no texting abilities. Like There was nothing like that. I mean, when I remember even younger than that, cell phones wasn't really a thing. It was just not really a thing. I remember my father had a pager, right? It was a different time period. So I grew up with the internet, but I was very much still, how I was listening to music. I had my little CD player. I remember having a Walkman, right? Like it was just different.
Yo, the
I
CD
think that
player back in the day, man, you just brought it back.
yeah,
Because you have to
yeah.
make
And
sure that the CD didn't have any scratches. Because you know if you put a certain song and it's gonna skip, and then you can't walk too fast. Because if you walk too fast, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just want to
Yep.
bring it.
Yep. Yeah. And like I said, the kids of today will never understand that. They will never understand that. They have an iPhone at a very young age. I think it kind of goes back to, Zay's point. You know, it's why do they think that they know more? I think it's because they have access to the internet where instead of asking your parents questions
I
like
could
you
look it up.
did back in the day, I'm just gonna look it up. And we all know that the internet is not always correct. That depending on where you're getting your information, it could be skewed information. But you are, with your childlike brain, you say, "Oh, I've done the research, so this got to be the answer." When it's like, no, life will teach you the answer. What wisdom will teach you the answer? You talking to your parents and your older, family members will give you real advice and real understanding and give you legitimate, fact over Google and AI.
But
And
you
I
did.
think that kids believe that they're smarter and that they are grown because they can get an answer, but they don't even know what that answer is because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's the
I
best way
agree.
for me to explain it.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but the idea of kids acting like they know it all, that's always been a thing with kids. I think I've been called that. Like, yo, you're trying to grow up too fast. You think you know everything, but you're trying to grow up too fast. I've heard that when I was a kid. Zan, I'm pretty sure you heard the same thing. You're growing up too fast. You think you're a grown man. Relax. You're only blah 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 years old. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
there's
but
there's different things attached to each generation. Yes, the internet
I
is
think it's
dominant.
respect. I think that's the thing. I think that
See, if
before
good.
we would be reprimanded by our parent, being like, "You don't know what you're talking about. Shut your mouth. Go upstairs." You would respect that authority. You would still respect that. I feel like now you're seeing this shift where these kids genuinely will be like, "No, I don't. If you don't respect me and you don't talk to me
I'm
the way that
calling.
I should be
I'm
talked
calling
to,
ACS.
then no. If you don't talk to me politely and with respect and how I want to be treated and talked to, then no, then fuck that. I'm gonna talk to you however I want. I'm gonna talk to you like you're a homie." And back then, of course, I mean, nobody, children especially, should have to deal with any verbal abuse and things like that. But if your parent gonna tell you what to do, you listen. That's it. There is no ifs, ands, or but about it. You listen, right? I feel like now kids are pushing the envelope a little bit and being like, "I don't gotta listen to you. I don't gotta listen to you because I know everything."
Go ahead, Zay.
you know what's funny though? You know what's funny though is what the youth doesn't understand is that your parents are the training ground for life.
Oh my God.
All the stuff that you're gonna go through in your household transfer transfers directly to how you're gonna deal with situations as an adult, as a young adult, and as an adult. Being able to do something, being not able to do something is exactly what's going to happen when you're an adult. Having to get up on time to go and do something, to go to school, it's the same training ground, but they will go against the grain because they feel like they know better. And the internet and the information that they get from the internet almost gives them, it's like I don't have to go through the experience because I already know what it is. And they tack that on as like experience for them. You know what I mean? It's different, brother, because we
I
didn't
don't.
have
I
that
don't.
access like that.
I just think like it's kids. Yo, we always act like
All
know-it-alls.
right.
Okay, I think kids in general. I just we see this with every. All right. So for instance, Will said in the comments, kids are lazy. They're on the PS3 all day. Okay, you know what I was told? Yo, you're on the Genesis all day. You're lazy. It's just a different. It's a different wrapping paper. Like it's this. It's the same complaint It's the same package. It's just it looks different, but it's all the
Yeah, but
same.
it's a lot. But it's a lot
I
different
got
now
I got
because
told the
your
same
pa-
thing, bro.
Yes, you got told the same thing, but you're also
I mean, I am lazy, so I mean,
your gaming system was taken away from you, and you were made not to or it wasn't available for you to use. Now you do that to some of these kids, they're killing their parents.
I think that's a bit. I think that's a
No,
bit.
there is a situation. No, 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 no. There is a situation
I'm not.
that just happened where a kid killed his mother.
I'm saying I'm not denying that story,
No,
but
and listen,
that's
I'm not.
extreme.
It's not.
It's
That shit
not
is
like
not funny.
it's not like
It
it's an epidemic.
happened.
It's not like it's an epidemic where we're seeing, yo,
My
you heard
man,
another parent
my
got killed because they took away
my
the
man.
PS5.
Yeah, but that's the
That's
thing,
fucked
though.
up.
That's the extreme. But there's also levels before that extreme. There's also levels before that extreme,
There
brother.
was there's also the Menendez brothers. Like like there's always instances of craziness, bro. Like those were two spoiled brothers. They off their parents. We're gonna see examples of that. Like that. Unfortunately, extreme situations happen like that. But to say like that's the norm, you're speaking as if it's like,
Or
oh
I'm not saying that that's normal. I'm telling you, I'm giving you an example of an extreme,
yeah, but
bro.
there's been extremes since the beginning of time. There's been extremes to the beginning of time. Once again, I knock on wood, my kids haven't put me in that position where, they tend to be good kids. They get great grades. They're not disrespectful. And I think you're right. It does begin at the home. It begins at how you discipline your kids. But it's also knowing like the game plan changes. I'm not raising my kids the same way my mother raised me because the internet wasn't prominent. Yes, I was outside more and I was riding my bike and so on and so forth. The game changes. The strategies has to change with it. That's all it is, man. I don't think the kids themselves are, you know, once they get into the real world, they're more a little bit more entitled. I think that is the one part I will agree with, just because the access to their voice is a lot more accessible than prior. Because now instead of just marching and really being part of a cause, they just feel like a hashtag is enough for them, and so them posting a hashtag or what they believe, they believe that empowers them, and thinking that they're entitled to their opinions now, and we should really take it seriously. When in reality, you ain't really live life like that yet. So I don't
Yeah,
know,
but
bro.
Mm.
when you have thousands of kids who are like minded and who are posting the same shit, it gives them fuel. It gives them fuel, brother.
Yeah, but I also believe like
And that was not the case for us. See, that's the thing though. That was not the I know it wasn't the case for me because there was nothing like that for me.
nothing like what in terms of.
As in terms of you had your click on your block, that was it for me. Now the click is worldwide, son. The click is worldwide.
That's how you know he's
And
old.
that is the difference. That is the difference. The hashtags is worldwide. My hashtag went 5 deep, 10 deep. That was it.
It was cuckoo.
That was it.
That was. Listen, like I said, I agree with you to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, bro, at the end of the day, yo, just raise your kids. That's all it is. And there's always there's always been a history of bad parents, no matter what, no matter. And I want to be sensitive when I say this, but there were issues back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s where parents weren't even paying attention emotionally to their children. You feel me? Like, and so that's had an effect on that generation. Every generation has their gripes. Every generation has their issues. But I think we're looking at it like, oh, well, we're doomed, and I feel like we always hear that with every generation that comes up. We're always doomed,
Mm.
and then doom never comes. There's always doom and gloom. We sit
I can
back and
agree
then,
with that.
yeah, Kiani, I'm pretty sure you heard, yo, y'all don't do da 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 da. You think you know more than you do. Wait till you grow up. Oh my God, you're so lazy. This thing is doomed. Da, da, da. And the next, I'm fine. I bought a crib. I'm stable. I'm good.
Right. I mean,
You figure it
yeah,
out.
of course. Of course. I mean, yes, the points that you make are valid, right? Every generation will say about the new generation that, they don't understand why they act that way, why they talk that way, X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. I think that what I really want to say is that, and this is not maybe the fault of the children, right? But I remember kids being able to be kids, right? And I don't believe that the children of today have that ability, especially once you start getting into high school, right? These kids don't look like they're in high school. Like they're dressing very provocatively or they're dressing very adult. They feel like they have to talk very adult. Their parents are prepping them about going to college, figuring out what you want to do, this, that, and the third, X, Y, and Z. It's just a lot of pressure. And then you also got social media where they're like, I'm 18 and I made my first 100K. If you not making your bread by the time you're 18, you behind the game. So you have all this rhetoric around you being like, you got to be the flyest, you got to have the nice name brand, you have to have money in your bank. At the age of 18 to 21, bro, like most people are broke. That's normal. I was like, but I think that there's a lot of rhetoric right now around having kids grow up too soon,
But man,
right?
the other thing is too, like, yo, you're blaming the kids, or you're looking at the kids like the kids are doomed. Yo, like, put accountability on the parents. Like, it's more of a parenting issue than it is the kids' issues. It's not the
I
kids.
don't, I don't, I don't, I don't, I don't. I'm not gonna buy into that 100%
Wait,
because
you
you
don't.
got kids who are coming from good homes and still
What what do
falling
you consider?
victim
Wait,
to
wait, so
all the
what are
bullshit
you considering?
that they
What,
hear.
what are you considering a good home? Like, when you're saying a good home, you got to define that for me, because
I'm talking about
a
two
lot.
active parents in the same home, two active parents in the same home, spending time with their kids, providing for their kids, and you
Right.
still got all these kids coming
But
out
you
who are
you
fucking drug addicts,
you
who
didn't
are,
say
you
the
know what I
one
mean,
thing
and
though. You didn't say the
starting
one
drugs
thing.
when they're really, really, really young,
You didn't say the one thing though. You said being there for the kids,
which
being
is
active with
what
kids, and that's disciplining. I've seen a lot of that example where it's, yeah, they're active. They go to their games, they go to their shows, they talk to them, but they don't discipline them. That's the number. So once again, there's a trend. I've seen it from certain parents where
yeah, but
they don't.
who says you don't discipline your kids? What are you talking about?
As far as, it's all about holding them accountable. There are parents out there who, if their kid gets in trouble in school, right, they immediately believe it's the school's fault rather than, without questioning the kid, and it's the system attacking their kid because their kid can do no wrong. Once again, they can be active, they can provide, they can do all the things you just mentioned, but if they're not disciplining or holding their kids accountable, then that's doing a huge detriment. That's the biggest thing you have to be able to provide to your kid, because guess what, they're not always going to live with you. The real world is going to hold you accountable, best believe
Yeah,
that.
but you know, some of that is just the whole accountability of holding your kids accountable, right? It's tough because now you're dealing with parents who are like kind of like stuck in the wheel, right? So I've seen it myself. You go to school, da da da, and the first thing that the parent says is, "Oh, is it because my kid is Spanish? Or is it because my kid is black? Or is it because my
Or maybe
no,
your
your
kid was
kid,
wrong.
well, your kid was beating up this child,
Right, that's what I
right?
mean.
You know what I mean? And he was on top of him, pulverizing them. And how is it that now it's because your kid is black? No, it's because your kid was beating up this other kid. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm
They were
saying.
both wrong for fighting in the school, but people still want to take those stances. You know what I mean? Oh, it's because you're black. Oh, it's because you. There's a lot. So much that that's involved in like in these conversations because you want to say that it's the parents' fault. Some people want to say that it's a child's fault. Other people want to say that it's social media. I think it's a combination of a lot of it. But we're seeing like a lot of kids who come. It doesn't matter what type of homes they're coming from, right?
Mhm.
It, they're just I don't know. They're losing their way. As much as you want
But is that
to
so
help,
you're blaming the
right?
kid, or you
Your
blaming the
kids
parents?
and guide them. I
Who's
don't
that?
know, man. I don't know who to blame anymore because I've seen kids come from really, really good homes and still fuck up bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you can do the best you can as a parent. I think the accountability part is a huge thing missing from parents these days. They don't really want to hold their kids accountable because they feel like my kid can do no wrong, then there's no way little Bobby did what he did. Like,
Yeah, but
it's like
do you think there's a particular race that does that, or you think it's just
I
everybody?
think it's everybody. I think it's I think families have they have a lot. I'm not saying a lot more money, but they're able to provide a lot more than prior generations, in my opinion. And so that's why all these kids do have PS5s. I had to wait. You know what I mean? I couldn't get the Sega Genesis when it first came out. I had to wait and wait and wait. And luckily, my parents were able to get it for me. But it's. You're right. You said something in the beginning that was like spot on, and that was that it starts at the home. And I'm not saying that's automatically going to guarantee that your kid's going to come out straight, but it helps if you provide guidance and you hold them accountable, you discipline them, you punish them, and then because they learn what circumstances are. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's get to hard R because I'm exhausted.
Can I? I have. Just
Go
want to let y'all
go ahead.
know we are not live on Instagram.
We're not like I think Instagram it limits us to an hour. I think we
Have we
on
been on
No.
for over an hour? Yeah,
yeah.
it
Yeah,
might have
yeah, yeah.
been.
I think it limits us, and I think the stream is only active for. I think we're still good on YouTube, but it limits us for because that's happened like the last three streams on the Instagram. So I think it limits to an hour.
Mm.
All right, it's all right. We'll just because I'll put up the hard R. Shout out to Will though for participating. Let me see if we can get some hard R A or nays. Does anybody have anybody in mind they want to nominate?
Um, Not anybody that I think is,
Mind you,
think piece.
by the way, like RANA once again doesn't have to be a white person. It can be a black person or a Hispanic person. You know what? Let's go with it. Let's go with some Hispanic. Oh, hmm. Let's go with some Hispanics. Let's have some fun with y'all people. It's gonna be fun.
I was gonna say I got me one now.
Go ahead.
Not Hispanic, Asian. We
Okay.
got Lucy Liu.
Ooh, oh, we could go the Asian route. No, I don't think so. Nah, I think that's safe. I can, I can say nay. I don't think she said RA. Go ahead, Zay.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Nah, yeah, I think that's
I
a,
don't think so.
yeah, I
R
think,
or A.
yeah, Lucy Liu. Nah, I think she good. That's a good one
I
though.
agree. I agree. I just put on Google. I said, "Oh, look, put some Asian celebrities," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know her." But there's no there again. I don't think it's a think piece. I don't get the feeling that she's done it either. Right? It doesn't really make you ponder. No, I don't get the feeling that she's ever said it either.
Nah, I don't think so.
I'll give you an easy one. How about J Lo?
Mm,
Definitely a.
Definitely
mm-hmm.
A.
A.
Definitely R. Definitely
I
A.
don't.
Definitely R.
Why? I don't. Why would you say R?
Because it's one thing to say that this
When
is
she got
my
money when she got money, huh?
nah.
She left the Bronx
Nah.
and was like, I'm in living in Miami in this gated community, and I don't want no niggas around.
No,
Mind you,
I think
she
in anger, like what happened with her and Diddy and Shine. I was like, this dumb fucking nigga. Yes, hell yeah.
wow.
That's what happens. That's what happens. That's what happens when for me fucking around with these niggas.
Wow.
Now I don't know if it's derogatory per se, because we use that word so loosely,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't think it's like the full meaning of
Of R.
the hard R, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to just A.
I'll give you a black person who used the hard R. I'm gonna give one of y'all a guess. It's a pretty odd. Once I say the person, you'll be like, oh yeah, I can see that. Zay, can you think of the black person I know for definitively used the hard R? One celebrity, black celebrity. I'll give you a
One
hint.
black celebrity.
I'll give you a
Mhm.
hint. They are no longer alive.
They're no longer
When I say this person, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I can
Mm.
definitely see that." All right, you're not gonna get
Red
it.
Fox. He said it
No,
all the time.
Kiani, can you do you have any idea?
No.
You
OJ,
might as well just say it.
OJ,
Oh,
OJ. So do you know when he said it? So during the car chase on the freeway in LA, he drives back to his home. Obviously, he gets arrested. Whatever, whatever. And if you remember, I don't know where you were at that time, but if you remember, there were a whole bunch of people. He lived in Brentwood. Brentwood was a very rich, very expensive neighborhood, but there were a lot of black people there, a lot of mix of people. Just but there were black people there. And as they're driving away from the house to book him, he looks around. And he's like, "Why are all these niggas out here?" No lie. I can't even say hard. I can't even say what the hard are. So that's why it kind of sounded, you know what I'm saying? But he said, "Why are all these niggers out here?"
ooh,
Yeah, exactly. Like, ugh.
ooh.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I
OJ
don't know.
has
When
used
you
the
look at
hard
people
R,
from that
bro.
generation, it's tough.
No. Yo, go watch the 30 for 30, my guy.
Yes, but they used to use the hard R. There was no such thing as nigga
He said it like he was
back in
at
the days. It was
no.
nigger.
Okay, well
In the
Oh my
black
he
god.
exploitation movies, it was nigga.
he meant hard R, my guy. OJ meant hard R. Like, yo, it rolled off his tongue. Like he felt like he
I have a
was at the golf
question.
course. God.
Well, where do nobody say Negro anymore? Is that like just a term that nobody uses?
Um,
And like, how does that fall as far as like,
only when a
is it respectful? Is it not respectful? Is it only like certain groups of people are allowed to say Negro? Because Negro is negro. You know what I'm saying? So like, which one came first? Type shit. Like,
that's a great question. I feel like it only gets
No,
used when you
Negro is
upset.
not negro. Negro is not negro.
I feel like it only gets used when you upset a black mother. Like Negro, if you don't get your,
okay,
but I don't. You're right. I think it's only really used in NAACP. No, actually, no. I'm wrong because they use the word colored. I'm sorry. So yeah,
yeah.
I
So
don't.
I was just thinking about it. I was like, again, another
That's a very
alternative to the N word is like, Negro was also very much
all right.
popularly
So let's
used.
close this. Let's close it out like this. Kiani, if you heard a white person use the word Negro, would you be offended?
Hmm. I would automatically be like, "What are you like?" Yeah, actually, yeah, I do because I'm like, I just don't see you saying that.
Hmm.
Yo, what's up, my Negro? No, miss me with that completely. Like, I think that if you're using that term, it's automatically you're using it in probably a bad
There's like
way.
negative connotations. You mean?
Yeah, there's negative connotations behind that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could slide. I don't want to say slide, but you slip up and you use the A. You could be singing it in a song or whatever have you. I was like, but you saying Negro? Where does that coming from?
I'm trying to
Where? What
I'm
are you
trying to
saying?
I'm trying to envision a way they would say where they wouldn't believe they're being offensive. Zay, do you believe if you heard a white person say the word Negro, would you be offended?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm trying to
because
think.
that word is something that's used amongst individuals, just like nigga is a word that's used amongst people who know each other.
It's
My
but
Negro, what's up, my Negro? You know what I mean? That's that's just one of those words that you use with individuals who you know.
I know
I'm
it.
not going to a random black person go, yo, what's up, my Negro? I'm not doing that. I'm not going to a random black person and be like, hey, yo, my nigga. Like, I'm not doing that.
Okay. All right. I didn't say it. Relax. I'm just asking a question. Like, yo, relax. Like,
Yo, you know what's so crazy though? You know what's so crazy though is you know how many fights I've had to like stop from happening
mhm,
because the Spanish guy, right, is talking to me,
mhm.
right, because they're having an argument with a black dude, and he says, "Yo no sé lo que está pasando con este negro. Él me está molestando." He's saying this black guy, right?
Oh, but it
And when
sounds
he
like
says Negro,
It
the
sounds like,
black guy just wants to beat him the fuck up, not understanding that negro means black.
but it's weird because the alternative to the real hard R N word was the word Negro. Like so when announcers would refer to athletes, they'd say the Negro athlete or the Negro actors or whatever. Like and that was deemed acceptable. I just wonder when it pivoted to like, nah, that's offensive. Like for lastly, like I think the same can be said about colored. I don't like when people use the word colored. I know
Mhm.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. When somebody would say they would refer to when they were describing somebody, they would say, "Oh yeah, he was colored." Kiani,
Ooh,
did that? What?
I think we lost him.
Like what? My guy, right when it's getting really good, like this dude decides to use his Metro PCS internet. Um, what do you feel? But closing out, what do you feel about that? The word using the word colored.
I'm not a fan of it either.
Yeah, I
You
don't like it
know, I
either.
mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do, but I have on multiple occasions been like, you know, the colored community, right? Like, you know, I'll
We
use the
usually
terms
say people of color. Yeah.
people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Jesus,
get your sneeze out.
ugh,
Sorry.
allergies.
Yo, they
Right.
are kicking my
Uh,
ass.
for real. Have me taking two of
Yeah.
the daily Johns, even though they tell me not to, but I'm gonna do it anyway because it's really taking me out. But yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm not a fan of it either.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it sound off. It sound weird.
We
It definitely is giving me. It's giving back to like, you know, the '60s where I'm like, oh, this is the colored bathroom. This is the colored water fountain. It's like, you know, I don't like that. It don't sound good.
we knew somebody that said it who would refer to black people or and would say, "Oh yeah, the color guy," and we would try to correct him. And his only reason why he said he would continue using the word is because of the NAACP, and because in the acronym, the word "colored" is in the acronym. So he's like, if they're allowed to use it, why can't I use it? And it was just like, yo, but you know what you're doing. Like you're being a dick for a reason. Like we know why you're
Mhm.
using that word. So yeah. All right, guys, this was fun.